Hi, everyone. Can you just confirm me that both the sound and the image are okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's start this live, which is a bit different from the other live that we are doing. I just wanted to highlight in this live a use case that can happen with Jarvis, but also with other protocols that we combine with Jarvis in order to perform cross-border payment. Cross-border payment is the second use case that enables Jarvis that I see a lot of potential growth. The first one being, of course, the on and off ramp that we are doing together with Montpellier. And you will see that actually there is a lot of overlap with the on and off ramp. The on and off ramp use case is, of course, very good to onboard people into crypto and into DeFi and to offboard them whenever they need. So it's from my perspective, Jarvis in that regard is a very important stepstone to basically lead people toward the crypto and to help them and bank themselves and this kind of thing. The cross-border payment is different. It's another use case. And the point of this live is to explain you a bit what is cross-border, what is, how does the market is, how to say, valued, and how one can perform cross-border payment with Jarvis, and then what will be the future for us regarding this industry. Okay, so first, what is cross-border payment? So it is in the title. It's sending money across borders. Whenever you have someone in one country sending payment in another country, then we speak about cross-border. It could be close country like France to Switzerland. It could be very far country like Philippines to Canada and so on. Most of the cross-border payment in the world, it's very hard to have very accurate numbers you will see in this presentation, but let's say that 95% of the cross-payment border are done by industrial and basically are related to commerce. The other one being individual. So maybe you have already done cross-payment border without even noticing it. So for example, when you do travel, let's say you have a card from a Switzerland bank, you go in Bulgaria, you withdraw money in the ATM, boom, you just made a cross-border payment because your bank is in France, euros have been withdrawn, but it has been then exchanged for leva and you have withdrawn leva. Same thing when you shop online. For example, you want to buy a pair of shoes, you are in Europe, you want to buy them from China or from UK, you again do a cross-border payment. And of course, the diaspora, which is one of the largest market among individual use cases. Actually, e-shopper, e-commerce start to be very big. So diaspora, all the people who are from one country who are living abroad and they are sending money back to their home country. So for example, one of the biggest routes is, of course, people from Asia or from Africa who are coming in US or in Europe to seek for work or whatever the reason is that they fly away. It could be also because of wars or whatever. But their family or their friends stay in the country, in their original country, and they do send money to help them. And then, of course, you have the industry and the commerce. So this, I think I don't need to expand on it because basically any industry or commerce who is just dealing with someone abroad just to buy a material or to pay someone is, of course, doing a cross-border payment. So we really speak about something very big. Of course, DeFi, it will be very hard for DeFi to scale for at the level of what the industry requires. But where we can shine is in this area, the individual. So to target the diaspora and also some e-shopper, but also some very small commerce, as you will see a bit later in this presentation. So the main problem with cross-border is that you need a lot of intermediaries. So first, you always at least need two banks. You have the bank from where the funds are originating, and then you have the bank from, to where the funds are going. So also you have some kind of different kind of banks. Some banks are called, what's the name again? Let me think about it. I have to remember the name. A correspondent. So for example, it's one bank in the US, for example, JP Morgan, who has, let's say, a lot of customers, Indian customers living in New York. So what they do, they open an account, they deposit funds in a bank in India in order to remove the intermediaries and to facilitate cross-border payment, for example, between the US and between India. So this is called corresponding bank. But again, there is two banks. So those two banks, they need to eat. So they have fees, of course. Then you have the network. So for example, in Europe, you have SEPA. Worldwide, you have SWIFT. By network, I also can include Forex because, of course, when you send money from one bank in euro to another bank in euro in the Eurozone, then no FX. But if you send euro to Canadian dollar or whatever, you also have FX fees. And then you have a lot of other intermediaries. It could be because if you don't go through the bank and if you work with a company like a Western Union or all those cross-border payment company, they have there is a lot more intermediaries, and altogether those makes it very slow and very costly. So I know that you may have seen advertisement online about Wise or this kind of thing that are very cheap, and it's true. But in general, those are, according to the World Bank, some data from 2020, I think, the fees for remittance. So for example, it goes from 4% to 10%. So people are willing to pay, I think the average is 6.5% to send money abroad. Of course, some routes are cheaper, sending money from France to Spain or to UK or Switzerland is cheaper than sending money from France to China or to Philippines or this kind of thing. There are also a lot of challenges and inefficiencies because of all those different actors, all those different currencies. So I just put some quotes here that I picked from some article that I read about. It's actually very interesting. You can, of course, do your own research and read about it because it's a very interesting topic. So what we can say is that because of all the intermediaries, yes, the average fees is 6.5% for the last quarter of 2020. So it's kind of huge. I don't know if you realize to pay 6.5% just to send money. You have, of course, a lot of delays because all those things, and you have some new trend. You have fintech who tries to come in this industry because, like every time, banks and legacy players, they do not innovate. They sit on their monopoly, and because you have to use them to send money, you don't have alternative, and they don't care. But fintech start to see this market as something very interesting, and that's pretty much it. It's a huge market, but you're gonna see that it's almost impossible to evaluate. I have seen so many different sources, so many articles and data that no one is really agree on the data. But let's say it's between 20 to 135 trillion. So 1 trillion is 1,000 billion You have four kind of markets: B2B, C2C, C2B2C, and C2B. But the most interesting for us will, of course, be the C2C, the C2B, and small B2B. But most importantly, of course, will be the C2C for now. And huge growth expected because of the growth of e-commerce, and because also in many industries, of course, they are doing more and more international payments, and so they need more and more cross-border. I'm not saying here that DeFi or Jarvis or whatever can take a big share of this. Let's be realistic. Banks will still dominate this market for the next, decade and so on, until maybe bank one day become irrelevant. Why? Because most of the time it's a very big company. They are using very big banks, and I can't see tomorrow Louis Vuitton or whoever is doing huge amount of cross-border payments to suddenly use DeFi or even Wise. They will always use very big banks. So there are some markets, the bigger part of the market, that cannot be taken by DeFi. But there are many other markets that we should focus on, and still there is a huge growth expected. Here again, some articles that speaks about the valuation. So you can see it goes for 42 trillion. Here's some Ernst & Young, they value it at 156 trillion, and so on and so on and so on. There is an opportunity, as I said, because again, there is a lot of B2B that are only working with big banks, but you have small commerce, small mid-sized businesses, but also you have individuals that could be interested to use DeFi, or at least not necessarily DeFi directly, but application or services that are leveraging DeFi. And this is where, for me, the opportunity is. I show you here an example. So of course, I won't disclose names and so on, but one person in our community is working in a company who is buying and selling stuff in different countries. And they do work with a broker. And this screenshot, it's actually how much the broker is charging for their euro, Swiss franc, and Swiss franc dollar swap, so spot swap. So if you're not familiar with Forex, you may not be super shocked, but the price difference between buying and selling is huge. It's 3.3%, which means that this small company is actually paying 3.3% just on the Forex fees, but I guess the Forex fees encompass everything for their cross-border payment. The cool thing here is that this company is not that huge, so it's the kind of company that deals with volume that we can at Jarvis, take over. So one of my goal in the coming months and years and so on is to, of course, develop a lot the C2C. So, someone living in UK sending money to Nigeria, someone living in Canada sending money to Burkina or wherever. So to work on this first crypto native people, of course, and then to package all of the things I will show you after in a seamless app, or to work with our application to use our technology. And also to target very small size businesses that are paying huge fees for no reason for their cross-border payments. So this company, for example, it will be awesome if we can onboard them, with Montpellier and so on, and to replace their legacy Forex architecture. Something interesting that I wanted to share also, there is Mac Kingsley, who has made interesting analysis and research about CBDC. You may have heard about it. It's basically crypto done by central bank. So actually, there is a very big potential to improve remittance and cross-border payments by using central bank stablecoins. And according to them, it can reduce by 80% the transaction fee that people are paying when they do remittance. So actually, the stablecoins issued by central bank can also be a competitor to what we could do in DeFi, Of course, it will never be as cheap and as, you know, how to say, without all those boundaries. But it's interesting to see that central bank, they understood that one of the way to make things better is actually to use stable coins and something similar to public blockchain, even though theirs, of course, will be, as you know, private one. Okay, so I will just take a few questions if there are some, and if no, we move forward. Okay, so no questions so far. Okay, now the interesting part. So we have understood that cross-border is actually a very big market. You use it every day, even if you maybe don't notice it. There are few markets and some of them could be addressed by DeFi. So the question is how Jarvis can be used in order to do cross-border payments. So first, you have to remember that Jarvis is a protocol. So everything that I will explain you may seem complicated. And of course, it won't be as seamless as using Wise or Western Union or any kind of services, because right now it's a technology which is brute. To make it better, you need to build application on the top of it. So here we are mainly explaining Jarvis network as a backend solution. So small reminder, JFiat are synthetic stablecoins that we issue with our protocol that can be converted for their collateral back and forth at the Oracle price and without slippage, which means that if you have $1,000 of collateral, so right now on Polygon we use USDC and on BSC we use BUSD, you can convert them for $1,000 of any JFiat, minus, of course, the minting fees, which are either 0.1% or 0.2%, depending on the network. This feature, the fact that you can go from GFiat to USDC, let's take the example of USDC, back and forth without price impact, it allows you to make three kind of transactions. So the first one is simple. For example, J-Euro to USDC. This is basically an on-chain Forex spot swap. You can also combine J-Euro to USDC and USDC to JCAT. And doing that, you basically also do an on-chain Forex spot swap, and you go from euro to Canadian dollar. Again, no price impact. And also something very cool that is not the point of this video, but I wanted to emphasize on it. You can, of course, buy any token by doing cross-assets spot swap. So you first go from J-Euro to USDC, and then from USDC to wrap BTC using an AMM. This last value proposition is linked to the first, let's say, product market fit of Jarvis, which is to allow people to buy our J-Euro with Euro and then to swap it for Bitcoin at a better price when using Paraswap than Kraken, Coinbase, Swissborg, and so on and so on. Okay, so now that we have this reminder. So of course, the most important thing is this on-chain Forex spot swap without price impact. Another thing, of course, JFiat are supported by Mon Pèlerin, which is, among many things, a fiat on and off-ramp service provider, which means that you can buy a crypto with fiat or you can sell a crypto for fiat. And we have a special deal with them. We subsidize all the fee, which means that we do exchange fiat to JFiat at a 1:1 ratio. So if you have 10,000 euros, you got 10,000 J euros. If you have 20,000 J Swiss franc, you can sell them for 20,000 Swiss franc. To do so, Mon Pèlerin are using various network, railway. One of them is SEPA, so it's what we use in the Eurozone to send euro from one bank to another one. SIX, which is, let's say, the same version of SEPA, but in Switzerland, and SWIFT for various JFiats. So right now, we support euro, Swiss franc, British pound, Canadian dollar, Singapore dollar, and more are coming. There's just some things that we have to mention. Mon Pèlerin is a perfect solution, but it has some challenges. So for example, liquidity. Right now, Mon Pèlerin can easily process a few millions of dollars of transaction. But if tomorrow we need to scale to 100 millions or billions, it could be some issues because the Mon Pèlerin, it's a broker. So when you buy J-Euro from them, they need to purchase this J-Euro before. So they don't, I don't know if you had an image of the way Mon Pèlerin and Jarvis work, but they don't buy at the same time that you send them money. You know, you send them euros, they won't buy with your euros. Basically, they sell what they have in reserve, and after they will do some clearing. So they will convert the euros for USDC and buy back JFiat and so on and so on. So all of this, of course, requires an initial liquidity, and this is one of the challenge. Another challenge is the SWIFT fees, because SEPA and SIX are free. So basically, you really have a 1-1 ratio. When you send 1,000 euros, you receive 1,000 J-euros. But for the currency that are not in the SEPA or SIX zone, so basically British pound, Canadian dollar, Singapore dollar, they use SWIFT. And I don't know if you know, but SWIFT is like ultra expensive. So, and it's also impossible to estimate the SWIFT fees beforehand. So most of the time it's around 25 something. So for example, if you do an on-ramp using the Canadian dollar, if you do it with just 100 Canadian dollars, you're gonna pay 25 Canadian dollars of SWIFT fees. So Mon Pèlerin will just receive 75 Canadian dollars, and then they will exchange those 75 Canadian dollars for 75 JCAT. And we still do 1-1, but we do 1-1 for what Mon Pèlerin receives. And unfortunately, the SWIFT network is taking 25. So one way to do it and to remove those fees is Mon Pèlerin needs to open to have partnership or to open, let's say, subsidiaries in different jurisdictions. But again, this it takes time and it's a bit more complicated and it's hard to scale. I mean, you can't open a bank or partnership everywhere. Of course, it is their goal to do so, and I know that they work on it for various jurisdictions, but they won't be able to do it for all the jurisdiction of the world. So then, what can we do to scale and to have more REL for the on and off ramp? So here comes leverage, concentrated liquidity pools such as Curve and our PLAS program. So we won't be speaking about the PLAS program because it's absolutely not the point, but just a small background on it so you can understand why we have pools on Curve initially. So as you know now, our stablecoins, they can be converted for USDC back and forth at the Oracle price and without price impact, which means that our stablecoins are super liquid and they keep their peg. When you have another stablecoin, other stablecoins, they don't have the features that we do have, so they need to build liquidity themselves. So most of the time, they need to create a liquidity pool on Uniswap, and they need market makers to do arbitrage in order to maintain the peg. But arbitrage with real fiat and crypto is slow, it costs money, so you won't have a perfect peg, and this is why non-USD stablecoin doesn't really grow. Because of the liquidity issue. And when you have liquidity issue, you have peg issue. If you have peg issue, you have users issue. And if you have users issue, then you have liquidity issue, because without users, market makers won't be incentivized to provide liquidity. So to solve that, you have projects like Curve. And Curve, basically, you can, of course, see it as an AMM to sub stable coins with little slippage. But me, I see it differently. I just see it as an AMM, which is used for stable coins to gain liquidity and to achieve to target a peg by pairing themselves with a stablecoin which has a peg and a strong liquidity. So this is basically what other stablecoins are doing. So for example, PAR, EUROS, and EUROT, they don't have an incredible liquidity on chain. It's hard also for them to keep their peg, especially EUROS. So we needed to create this pool to pair it with J-Euro in order to help those stablecoins to have more liquidity and a peg. Same goes for JPYC. Of course, this is the theory. In reality, the problem is that the way Curve works is that you have very low slippage if the pool is somehow balanced. But as soon as the pool starts to be imbalanced, then you can have a very bad slippage, and I will show you here. So why do you have imbalance? So the problem is that sometimes one asset is more risky than another one, which means that market participants, they would like to sell this asset and to buy a less risky asset. Maybe you have seen what happened a few weeks ago with meme by Abracadabra. It was market participants, suddenly they were afraid about meme. So what they have done, they have sold shit tons of meme to buy USDC. And in the pool, meme, USDC, and DAI, you have seen a very huge imbalance. So there were a lot of the weakest stablecoin and very few of the strongest USDC and so on. So this is one of the reasons why you can have imbalance. People just dumping a weakest token and buying back a strongest one. But you can also have imbalance just because you have arbitrage opportunity on one way, and you can't do a counter arbitrage, let's say, to rebalance it. I will show you an example. So for example, here are the pools we have. So this one is on the BSC, it's Ellipsis, and it's a Nigerian Naira. And you can see that there is a big imbalance. There is 56,000 Jarvis Naira against 1.5 million NGNT. The Euro pool is also not very well balanced. You have more Euro T and J Euro and very few Euro S. The CAD pool also, you have way more CAD C, and the worst, the GPY pool, you have 91% of GPYC. So before to explain you how those imbalances are creating, how they are happening, what is the consequences of imbalance? So first, it can create positive slippage. Positive slippage is when basically you spend $1,000 of something and you get 1,000.5, or you get more. So basically, you make money just by doing a swap, which is pretty cool. So let's take the example of euro. So if you have 1,000 euro stasis, you can exchange them for 1,008 J euro. This is pretty cool because if you are a client of Stasis and you acquire 1,000 euros, you can make 8 euros and by buying J euro. And as you know, you can swap J euro back to euros using Mon Pelerin. So here you make 8 euros. It's not that impressive, but you just make money. Same thing for JCAD and CAD-C. Look, 10,000 JCAD gives you 10,017 CAD-C. Same thing for the Naira. 1 million Naira gives you, our Naira gives you 1.15 million Naira. And of course, the huge difference in the GPY pool, 1 million GGPY give you 1 million 7. So here you have 7.5% of positive slippage. So if you exchange $1,000 of our Japanese yen, you get 1,070, so 7% more of the GPY, of GPYC, sorry. And the one for the Naira is also not bad. Huh? You make 1.5% more. So positive slippage, it's pretty cool because somehow you make more money, but it's not that easy because when you buy GPYC with a 7% discount, basically, you may feel that, hey, I just made money. Yes, but no. And this is why imbalance are staying this way. Because as soon as you have bought GPYC, you can only do two things. Either you sell your GPYC for USDC, but the problem is that the liquidity of GPYC is very low. So the 7% that you have just won, maybe when you will sell this GPYC for USDC on Uniswap, the slippage will be actually around 7%. So you will not make money. This is why people don't do that kind of swap so often. The second thing that you can do with GPYC is to load your Visa debit card, prepaid card, but it can only work if you are living in Japan. So only Japanese people can actually do this. They can do it right now, but most of the Japanese people, they don't want now to off-ramp, so the imbalance is staying. And that's pretty much it. Okay, and then I mean, I can also expand on the reason why we have a slippage on the NGN. I have made a thread about it on Twitter, but just to remind it to you for the one who didn't read. So yes, you can make money in Naira, but the problem is that to acquire our Naira, there is no fiat on an off-ramp. So the only way to mint our Naira is to actually have BUSD. But the problem is that in Nigeria, to acquire BUSD, they are paying a very big premium. So they won't buy BUSD for $1. So if they have $1 of Naira, they won't get $1 of BUSD. I don't remember the numbers, but let's say that for the sake of simplicity, that they will get 90 cents of BUSD. So if they had $1,000 of Naira, they could buy 900 BUSD. With those 900 BUSD, they could then mint G and GN, and then they will exchange the G and GN for NGNT, and then they will sell the NGNT for NGN using, for example, the exchange by coins. But the problem is that the NGN that they will receive may be less than the initial NGN they have sold to buy BUSD because of the big premium they are buying. So most likely, the imbalance in the two GN NGN pool will stay, and so is the one on GPY. There are only two imbalances that can actually easily be changed. It's the Canadian dollar and the euro one. You also have negative slippage, because if you buy CAD-C with GCAD, as you have seen, you can make 17 Canadian dollars more, but it also works the same way, vice versa. So, for example, if you sell 10,017 CAD-C, you won't get more GCAD. You will actually get way less, because look at the exchange fees, exchange rate. It's 9973. Same for GPYC. If you sell 100,000 of GPYC, you won't get more JGPY. You will actually get way less, almost 8% less. So of course, no one will do trade this way. I mean, who in their right mind will sell X dollar of value of something to get way more? So you also have negative slippage. So how does imbalance happen? So the way concentrated liquidity pool work and curve works. So basically, they have. I mean, it's very how to say. I simplify a lot. But they have few area where you have a high or a low slippage. So this is a pool with two assets. If the ratio between the assets is contained between those two lines, so let's say it's between 60% and 40%. So if you have one asset with 45% and another one with 55%, you are in the low slippage zone, so the pool can work normally. But as soon as the ratio goes above this low slippage zone, then you start to have very high slippage. The size of this low slippage zone depends on one thing. It's the coefficient. Maybe you have seen on curve when under a pool you have the coefficient A. Sometimes it's 50, it can be 100, it could be 2000. The higher the coefficient is, and the wider the area is. So, for example, for the meme pool, the coefficient was, I think, 2000. So actually, the low slippage area was that big. You can have 90% of one asset and 10% of the other one, and still have a very low slippage. So how does it work? When you create a pool with two similar assets, the first thing that will happen is arbitrages, they will come and they will do the first arbitrage. So what will happen? So let's say that there is three assets, A, B, and C. So an arbitrage will come with asset A, $1 of asset A, and they will sell it for 99 cents of the asset B. So you may think that this is absolutely stupid to sell something $1 and to receive less. But the thing is, the asset B is listed against asset C, and the price is actually above the price of asset A versus asset C. So with their $0.99 of asset B, they can actually sell it for the asset C, and thanks to the price, they can get $1.01 of the asset C. Then they will sell $1.01 of asset C for asset A, and they will make 1 cent profit, which is here 1% of profit. So this is what is happening every time you have a pull on curve. You have people who will be looking for external liquidity. So the external here is the asset C, and they will just sell one asset, buy the other one, and make an arbitrage. And when you do that, when you sell the asset A, you can see that the proportion of asset A in the pool has increased, and the proportion of the asset B has decreased. So the problem is that those arbitrageurs, they are pushing the assets close to their low slippage zone boundaries. So how does it work? So this, for example, is the price of asset A against asset C. And in orange, you have the price of asset B versus asset C. So at the beginning, the prices are different. So arbitrages, they are coming and they do their arbitrage. And when they do arbitrage, they sell asset B on another exchange. So they make the price of asset B going down. And at some point, it will be very close or actually similar to the price of asset A versus C. When the price is very close, no more arbitrage are possible because they are no longer profitable. Because remember that when you sell $1, you don't get $1, you get 99 cents. And the more the imbalance is happening here, so the less of asset B there is, and the more asset A there is, and the less interesting the exchange rate will be. So at some point, maybe after this transaction, you will be able to sell $1 of asset A, but you will be able to buy only 98 cents of asset B. And 98 cents, if the price of asset B is very far from asset A, you can still make your arbitrage and make profit. But if the price is very close, then you won't be able to make money, which means that at some point, arbitrages, they cannot do arbitrage anymore. The new arbitrage will be to wait asset B to again be very far from the price of asset A. But the problem is that if this is happening, but the pool now is very imbalanced, then nothing can happen. I will show you after with an example. So this is how imbalances are happening. And usually you have arbitrages who are supposed to come and rebalance the pool. So look, when you have a very big imbalance, so you have, for example, the asset B and A, which are in the high slippage zone. So you can sell $1 of asset B to get $1.5 of asset A, the famous positive slippage. But it's what I explained you before. If the asset A is illiquid, you cannot do arbitrage. So the problem is that if the other asset is illiquid or doesn't have a fiat on and off ramp, or an effective one or an efficient one, then arbitrages cannot do their job and the pool remains imbalanced. And you may think that, okay, end of the game. No. So this is why those imbalances that are, because one of the assets is weaker, we can actually leverage from them for remittance with fiat-backed stablecoins. So first, before to enter in this last part, I'm checking if there is question. It seems that there is no question, so let's move forward. So if we combine a positive imbalance with a fiat-backed stablecoin with on and off ramp capabilities, we can get very interesting things. So this is WISE, which is considered as the cheapest way to send money abroad. I have made this quick simulation. Here's the only thing that I have to be honest with. I used fast transfer. Fast transfer has a 10 euro fees. I should have actually used slow transfer with a 5 euro fees, but you will see it doesn't change anything. So for example, with WISE, even though you cannot actually send euro, I mean, they tell you here that you can only send USD, but let's say that it's possible to send euro. So for 1,000 euro, if you want to send naira to someone in Nigeria, you will send them 435,000 naira. What happens if you use Jarvis? So first, you need to get J euro. So as you know, you will go to Mont Pelerin. You can get 1,000 J euro by spending exactly 1,000 euros. So no fees. Then when you have 1,000 J euro, you can swap them. This is on the Binance Smart Chain. The Naira is only on the BSC. You can swap it for 471,000 G and GN. But the thing is, as I said, we don't have a fiat off-ramp in Nigeria. So it's pointless to actually hold this Naira. But fortunately, we have a pool on Ellipsis, which is a fork of Curve. So it works exactly the same way. And for now, the liquidity is very small, but we're going to, of course, increase this liquidity over time, and there will be some liquidity mining program to increase it. So what is happening here is that the 471,000 of GNGN, because of the positive slippage, are actually transformed into 492,000 NGNT. And NGNT can be swapped for NGN at a 1:1 ratio using buy coins and different exchanges there, which means that the difference between Wise and Jarvis plus Ellipsis plus Mont Pelerin plus buy coins, it's a lot of intermediaries, 13% of difference. So again, it's a lot of transaction. With Wise, you have nothing to do. You just need to pass a KYC, send euros, and the recipient needs to pass a KYC and get their Naira directly on their bank account. So of course, it's more convenient. In our case, it's very complicated. You need a KYC with Mont Pelerin. Then you need to buy J euro. Then if you don't have a BNB to pay for the gas, you also need to buy a BNB. No worry, at some point, we're going to introduce gasless transaction. Then you need to swap it for Naira. But before that, you need to, of course, to do an approve. Then you do the swap. Then you go on Ellipsis. You have to approve GNG on Ellipsis. Then you have to swap it. Then you have to send NGNT to buy coins, where you have to do a KYC again. And then you can transfer it for NGN. But again, this is just a backend, which means that it's a technology. I mean, it's a route that is supposed to be abstracted at some point by entrepreneur, but we'll just see here a very good opportunity to say, okay, I can actually provide Nigerian people with a way better remittance cross-border real than the existing solution. Then also just to see for CAD, Canadian dollar. So here you can, I use this time low cost transfer. So you can exchange 1,000 euros. I mean, you can send 1,000 euros and someone will receive 1.438. Let's do the same thing on Polygon this time. 1,000 J euro, you got 1.443, and 1.443 got you 1.446. Then you have to pay 0.05% of fee to Paytree in order to go from CAD-C to Canadian dollar, which makes a difference of 0.45% compared to Wise. So we can do, again, euro to Canada at a lower price than Wise itself. That doesn't mean that this is the best route to do. You have other exchanges like dfx.exchange, and maybe sometimes you have to check their exchanges. So, for example, maybe it's better to do J-Euro USDC and then USDC CAD-C on DFX and then CAD-C, CAD on Paytree. So as a conclusion, this is a route that you can use if you want to do cross-border payments. If you want to send money, let's say you are Nigerian or you are, I don't know, a Spanish person, and you want to send money to your relative or to whoever you in another country. So first, if you start with JFiat, you need to have a KYC with Mont Pelerin. In Mont Pelerin will allow you to go from fiat to JFiat. So euro and Swiss franc at a 1:1 ratio, GBP, Canadian dollar, Singapore dollar at a 1:1 ratio minus the SWIFT fees. But if it's for big amount, the SWIFT fee should be small in proportion. Then you go to Jarvis exchange and you exchange the JFiat you just bought for the JFiat that you need. So for example, it could be Naira for BSC, or it could be Canadian dollar or Japanese yen or whatever. You don't have price impact. Then you go on Curve or Ellipsis or wherever we have listed the JFiat versus the fiat-backed stablecoin, and you enjoy the positive slippage. And why I'm sure that there will always be positive slippage is because the way things work, every time the pool can be balanced again, arbitrages will just come and create again an imbalance. So it means that liquidity providers, they will somehow always be wrecked if they participate in fiat-backed stablecoins in countries that are different from theirs. For example, if you provide liquidity in the 2NGN pool, obviously there will be more NGNT than JNGN, which means that the JNGN that you will bought, you will have bought with BUSD, you won't get them. You will just have NGNT, and because NGNT has a very low liquidity, you will basically lose money. Because only someone in Nigeria could exchange NGNT for real Naira. So if you are not a Nigerian person, I would recommend to do not participate to liquidity mining program for 2NGN. Same things if you're not in Japan, do not participate to the GPYC and so on and so on. Even though there are a few ways to correct those slippage with, those imbalances with our own fiat on and off ramp, but this is not something we're going to do so. And then the last part is, of course, to go to the fiat-backed issuer, so Paytree or NGNT or GPYC or Stasis. I mean, whoever we have a pool with, you pass your KYC and you redeem fiat to fiat with the fiat-backed stablecoin. So again, this route should be automated. So, for example, someone could create, a company. They could open an account within various jurisdictions. Using various, intermediaries, so Pelerin, Paytree, NGNT, and so on and so on. And then they could automate all of this and just tell the user, okay, send me euros, I will send Naira or Canadian dollar to the recipient. And they do all of this themselves with an instant settlement compared to Forex, which has a 3-day settlement, and banks who are also working at +1 or +2 days settlement. So that's all for this live. I hope that you have learned stuff. And moving forward, the best thing will be, of course, to target crypto native people, because as you have seen, you need to have some basic knowledge to use MetaMask and so on. But moving forward, the idea is that crypto native people will use those routes, and then they will start to speak about it to other crypto native people, and then we can grow a community. And then at some point, we can start working on abstraction to make things more easy, to work also with on SDK, API, and to basically work with other projects who are doing remittance to integrate those routes. And then maybe at some point to have our own application, or to wait for someone to create this application. Okay, so thank you for your time and see you soon. Bye.